So S.E. Cupp writes, Trump's rise, more inexplicably, his durability has baffled even the most open-minded of us. And I don't include myself in her us. So
his durability has what the most
has baffled even the most open-minded of us.
Gotcha.
Yes. But when man can't explain something, he settles for the next best thing, deciding who's to blame for it. To me, it's obvious. It's also, I just love the fact how she not only doesn't refuse to use sort of gendered expressions, she uses gendered expressions that seemingly would exclude her, but she doesn't have a problem with that. Trump is the result of liberal political correctness run amok. And of course, you knew this was coming, right? It's because there's so much political correctness that the only choice for the right was to get somebody who was so politically incorrect. The
only choice is to get somebody who calls women fat pigs and stuff like that.
That's right.
Let me say something in response to that I think is not entirely politically correct anymore, but I didn't coin the phrase. And I've been saying this for we've been having this conversation for a while, and since the rise of Trump, I've been, saying the same thing, which every once in a while, I'd say 1 in 20 or so, I get something right, Sam. As you know, Allison Lundergan Grimes is a senator from Kentucky.
And near miss.
But what'd you say?
Near miss.
Yeah, that was close. But on this one, I have been saying from the beginning, it has nothing to do with Trump's politics, and frankly, that doesn't even matter. It's all about his willingness to say F you to anybody they consider to be an enemy of theirs, which if you're on the right, it's not just the actual left, but most mainstream organizations, churches, the media, institutions, the center right of your own party, the right of your own party. If
brown people, people from other countries.
Right, people from other countries, people that look different than you, people that have different sexual preferences than you, people that sleep a different number of hours than you. You go on and on. And that's
you give a bad deal.
What?
You give us bad deal. I don't know if you saw Trump's doing his Asian guy, I guess.
Yes. And I think, it was so I have to give Josh Marshall way back when at TPM, and I think it was when Bush was in office, who I think he coined the phrase "bitch slap politics."
I was talking about this the other day, actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that's what Trump is to an art form.
Yep.
I mean, it's again, we've talked about for a while how the connections between the right and the entertainment complex are the same people. You're bringing the same people that are sitting there sending their. If you watch an amazing John Oliver clip on all these churches and how he started his own church, I don't know if you saw that whole thing, which was just phenomenal. It's the same people that are sending money to televangelists or buying airplanes with it. It's the same people that are buying a miracle cure from Mike Huckabee that's in the Bible for cancer. You have all these angry rubes, essentially. I hate to put it that way, but that's just what it is. And so entertainment and direct marketing and right-wing politics have all just kind of melded into the same thing. And so the same way people want to watch a certain reality show because they want to see somebody say you're fired or screw you, or they want to watch somebody be, completely sort of treated terribly and demeaned in all sorts of ways, whether they're, eating bugs or having somebody grind their face into the mud. The terrible downside of our id has been released in entertainment. And, it's never been far from right-wing politics, and that this is where we are. He's the bridge. It was inevitable we'd get there because when Josh Marshall said that was exactly true. Yep. I mean, if you look at some of the most popular right-wing figures of the last decade and a half or whenever, they weren't, they love to talk about Ronald Reagan. None of these people were Reagan-like figures. And again, when I talk about Reagan, I'm not saying that his policies made any sense or were any good, but he was a friendly guy. So he's somebody that would never get, at least on the surface, he's somebody that would never get ahead on the right now, not just because of his policies, but because he was too friendly of a guy. You have to be nasty. You have to insult liberals to their faces. You have to, when I went to that, talked to you a week ago, I was on my way to that Koch brothers conference, and I did a lot of interviews there and talked to people about what I said to you about the
anybody drink the stuff
and all that, and they all have the same answers. They're just angry. Liberals are just idiots, and there's nothing positive coming out. And Trump is just the perfect embodiment of that.
Yep.
So, and so I think when Josh Marshall said that, whenever that was, that George W. Bush loved to do that. which was essentially to sort of rip apart Democrats to make them look weak and himself look strong. He knew what that was appealing to and who that appealed to, and that's Trump has just taken that a number of levels further, so people can seamlessly watch a show where people are degraded, a reality show, and then turn on Fox News and watch Trump talk about other people. And it's the same thing.
And I think I think you're absolutely right, and I think that that's why in many respects I think we're seeing Jeb Bush fall so precipitously, because Trump has basically been slapping Jeb Bush around and like a rag doll, like literally just like a cat playing with a mouse that has the legs been ripped off, and the mouse is just sort of like dancing around trying to. I don't know if you've ever seen this. I had a couple of barn cats, and you would watch it, and it was just horrible to watch these cats. This is the way they have fun, and the way that he does this with Jeb Bush, like making Jeb Bush basically say anchor baby, and then making Jeb Bush pretend that he wasn't talking about anchor babies.
Because he's talking about Asians.
Yeah, exactly. And
because it's okay. I guess it's okay to say it about Asians.
Well, I mean, and the irony is someone, a listener of this program made the point that to the extent that there's any Asians coming into this country to have children to get them American citizenship, they leave a week later, the whole family. I mean, to the extent that there's actually any of that sort of citizenry tourism, they leave. And
or you come here to get an education.
Well, then the kid may come back.
You have Piyush Jindal.
Right. Well,
the kid, and he becomes a citizen even though he's not from here, and it's amazing.
Well, but the kid may come back later for college, 20 years later, but that's not what an anchor baby supposedly is.
No, I know. I just was making a joke about the fact that Bobby Jindal didn't even open his mouth. The hypocrisy of all of that.
Oh, yeah. It's just ridiculous. And so, interestingly enough, another person who may be adopting that same sort of theory is John Boehner, because it's being reported now that John Boehner, at a Steamboat Springs event for Representative Scott Tipton,
awesome.
Apparently, this is what John Boehner had to say about Ted Cruz's campaign. He said, where did it go? He said, basically he said, he said he likes Cruz's presidential campaign because it keeps that jackass out of Washington. And so,
I don't find myself often agreeing with John Boehner.
Right, indeed. But, it's really complicated to sort of parse my feelings to that. I'm going to enjoy when the right wing explodes, and this only basically strengthens Ted Cruz. It's fascinating to me to watch
John Boehner.
Yeah, it does. Fascinating.
Kind of like as badly as, let's say, if you were to pass a wine tax.
Oh, did he try and do that?
No, Boehner's a big boozer. I don't know. I thought that was common knowledge. Maybe I stepped too far on that one.
Oh no, I think people know that Boehner's a big boozer. Big boozer.
See, you tax the wine, and Boehner's going to get mad.
I see what you're saying. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
The joke didn't work. We have some that work.
They can't all be gems. Believe me, I know that. All right. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So I don't know. It'll be fascinating to see what continues to happen, because I think that democracy. We've talked about this so many times, and essentially the problem with our form of government, and really any open society like this, is you can only legislate and make laws about so much. You kind of have to rely on culture to police the rest, to keep people in line so that they don't, because there's certain things that you respect because they're tradition. And I'm not saying that's always good. Obviously, we had some very bad traditions in this country that need to not be respected. But when it comes to sort of treating our political process seriously, for example, that was just something. There just were things that you didn't do. You know what I mean? And a classic example would be nobody cashed in off of their presidency. It was considered to be gauche and in bad taste. And then Ronald Reagan, right after his, did a tour of Japan for like 6 weeks, so they paid him $1 million. Think about that for a second. And that was considered outrageous back then. And that sort of started opening that. Yeah, he went against what the traditional had been, that you just didn't do that. And now we're in a place where whether it's Democrats or Republicans, lots of people have lots of explaining to do, and have to say why they accept 500,000 from this group to speak for 20 minutes. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the way all this stuff works. It becomes like a cultural drift where you just, the way congressional relations used to be something that wasn't the way it is now. Newt Gingrich poisoned that well, and it went on from there. And Trump's now you're having the same thing happen to this process right now. So these people that have tried to predict what will work from before, to use tech jargon, Trump's a disruptor. I mean, he's essentially that he knows that if you play to people's basest instincts, particularly in the Republican Party, it works. And the only thing that has stopped people from going places where he's going now before is that they weren't willing to buck tradition. They weren't willing to take it that step further. Well, he's doing that now. And I honestly don't know on that side of the aisle, on the Republican side of the aisle, what it is that can stop him. Because as long as he's willing to say what he knows people want to hear, who are going to vote in Republican primaries and caucuses, no matter how ridiculous it is, if you're willing to pander that far, if you're willing to say the Bible is your second favorite book after your own, even though Donald Trump probably doesn't know what a Bible looks like.
Well, we've got some sound of him being actually asked what his favorite quotes are, but you can imagine his response.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying he's willing to pander to that level. Yep. And there's all sorts of stories out there about him during his business life where he'd walk in from one meeting to another and be a completely different person depending upon who he had to be. Clearly, this is a calculated thing, and these people don't care. They're either too dumb to know or they know and they just don't care because he's insulting liberals, and that makes it cool anyhow.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's going to be really interesting because you are in uncharted territory because he's doing things that people in the past, there was no law against them doing it. They just didn't because others hadn't before them, and they felt it to be below the process. But now there's nothing below the process, so here we are.